it's good to see you again.
You too.
How's it going?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So, when did you first fall in love with music?
It was elementary school. My folks always had a lot of records around the house. It was okay. Nothing was really sparking yet, but then in elementary school one day there was a substitute teacher, and during the lunch hour he put on the Beatles and started dancing with me and spinning me around, and I was hooked.
And so how did you start playing the violin?
My parents super casually asked me if I'd like to play, and having no idea what I was getting into, I said, sure, I'll try this.
How did you put together your first solo violin performance?
I mean, I've done some rando stuff, super rando, but nothing committed and really thought out. And then I was touring with Thurston. We were in Australia. It was during Chelsea Light moving, and they needed an opener. So I just did free violin, and of course it was total turn on. And that wasn't that long ago, maybe 10 years ago, something like that. And then it's been a refinement ever since.
So, has it always been the violin for you, or did you kind of find your way to it in different ways?
I grew up in Lower Manhattan in Soho, and there was just energy everywhere, and it's just classical music was not the thing. But I joined my first band as a teenager, and they were oh my God, you can play an instrument, and they really, really encouraged me. But then over time, of course, I picked up the bass and the guitar and vocals and goofing on every instrument I could kind of get my hands on at one point or another.
Cool. So we are at 54 Ludlow Street. Do you want to tell us a little bit about where we are?
This is the former home of Lou Reed, Jean Cale, and Tony Conrad. They lived upstairs, and there's a pretty cool story. I think it was Cale who said they dressed all in black like rockers, and that the kids from the Seward Park High School down the block would throw rocks at them because they were rockers.
What's your favorite show that you've performed?
We did this weird South by Southwest thing with Thurston. I think it was the New Wave Bandits. We were covering a Velvet Underground song, I'm Not a Young Man Anymore. There was so much energy. It was these waves of love going back and forth between the audience and Thurston.
I said, Kim Fowley's out there in the streets!
It just feels so high energy, and then I looked down and my violin was unplugged. But it was still really great.
Oh no. What was your time like working at the Rare Book Room as a recording engineer?
Oh, that was amazing. Yeah, I just finished doing a bunch, first solo record, tracking the Fleeting Skies over at the Samstille Bottom, which was the Metabolismus studio in southern Germany. And when I got back to New York, I was really good friends with Nicholas Verns, who ran the Rare Book Room, and he was like, you come over here. The biggest learning curve, of course, was doing my own sessions there, and I did a pretty early one with Matt Valentine for In the Valley, and to learn all that stuff and to be able to really make the decisions to get the sound you want for your material is a big deal.
Okay, so do you want to tell us a little bit about where we are and your history with it?
We're at the Henry Street settlement over on Grand Street, deep Lower East Side. Started taking violin lessons here when I was about 5. I rode my bike here every Saturday morning for 7, almost 8 years.
Do you have a lot of fond memories here, or?
I have almost zero fond memories. It was a real hassle. My parents were pretty tough with me about practicing. The lessons were very old school. No fun, no going off the rails and getting creative. It was all about the discipline. It just wasn't my thing. I appreciate it, but not my thing.
Have you been back here since as an adult?
Yeah, actually, Alan Lick did a really great art exhibition up here. My friend Steve Thornton and I came and did photos here after we saw the exhibit, and we used it on one of the solo records, the cover of it, Future Slip.
So how much of your performance is improvised versus planned out?
With the violin stuff, it's all improvised at this point. I definitely have my particular approach and the sounds I like and my skill set, and then my particular headspace, which I assume is slightly on the dark side, and then you mix those together and each show is going to have its own nuances depending on space and sound, amplifier, all that, but one tries to stay in the moment as much as possible.
When you're first writing a song, is it similar to improvising on the stage at all?
Not at all. It's very intellectualized, heady stuff. You're still looking for magic always, but you have to find it and you have to guide it, and hopefully it'll flower and become its own thing. Whereas I feel like with the improvising, you're already hopefully in that headspace allowing for that to happen, or that's the attempt.
So, do you want to tell us a little bit about where we are and if you have any connection to the place?
We're at the East River Park. If we go west, we'd be at Houston Street. Slightly south is the Williamsburg Bridge. Across is Williamsburg itself. Not on the Williamsburg Bridge, but on the Manhattan Bridge, Tule Kupferberg from the Fugs jumped off of the Manhattan Bridge, and he's the person referred to in Howl, Allen Ginsberg's tome. Tule was the only person who ever survived the jump. Broke his back, but survived and went on to have a new family and the Fugs. Further down, where renovations are currently taking place in this park, is the ancient burial ground of the Hall of Fame 4-track, where it was laid to rest, almost 20 years ago.
Why did you bury the 8-track?
It had worked really, really hard, and I thought it deserved a really good resting place. And this is like one of our favorite places to hang, me and the other members of Hall of Fame, Theo Angel, Dan Brown. Super cool park.
So, do you still visit Germany often?
Yeah, I haven't been there for about a year. Almost every solo record I've done, minus In the Valley, has been partly recorded or mixed or wholly there. Obviously, South Germany, that part of the world, is very, very beautiful. Almost makes one feel like innocent and naive to a certain extent, and that definitely seeps into the writing. It's just like a little bit more like blissed out and some sort of joy, whereas living in New York City, it's hard not to be aware of like constant change and hustle and intensity. So a lot of the work can be almost reactionary to those influences, which then becomes kind of like defensive to some degree, or you can just feel the walls going up.
Do you ever think you'll leave New York?
In a box? I don't know. It's got its grip on me for sure. I grew up here. I've always been here. I was born here. Always lived in downtown New York. So yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to shake it or not.
So are you currently working on any projects?
Right now I'm kind of like, the walls are fully up, locked and engaged, and I'm working on a song record and also working on a violin record. The violin record's been recorded with Josh Diamond from Gang Gang Dance, and playing with Marcia Bassett, have shows coming up with her, and have a bunch of solo shows coming up in New York.
Wonderful. I'm looking forward to it.